Okay, so let's go into this because it's getting pretty serious and it's not a light thing. It's something that's going to only get worse with time under the current system that we have. And I don't just mean the inflation that's bad, I mean how America is going in general. Los Angeles Times, more retirees than ever are in debt. Here are tips for paying it off, right? Basic things. Let's go through it, all right? Growing number of older adults are in debt in retirement. This can be a big challenge because people's income in retirement is traditionally limited. Okay, makes sense. They're stuck with the check that they get every month. That's retirement. That's disability. Cool. Here we go. According to a 2022 survey, remember, people are worse off now than they were in 2022. 2022. The survey of consumer finances from the Federal Reserve among people ages 65 to 74, the share with debt rose to 65% in 2022, up from 50% in 1989. The first time this question was asked, for people 75 and over, 53% report holding debt in 2022, compared with 21% in 1989. So, look, the way of life, everything's costing a lot more money now. It's not a good situation. Debt is what people are taking on, whether it's pay to play debt, pay now, pay later debt, or rather, take it on now and pay later debt, or credit cards, or home loans, or loans against the future of your house, and them getting all that kind of stuff. There are strategies to take. Now, I looked through a lot of these strategies that they had that basically they came up with. For example, consider moving or downsizing. That sucks because you don't want to move out of the house you spent your life paying for. Time your Social Security benefits, basically when to claim them, wait longer, which most people can't because the bottom line is they need their benefits sooner rather than later. Tap home equity cautiously, it says. Another thing it says is, of course, basically be aware of your priorities. Now, to be fair, okay, I don't think that the reality has set into a lot of people as to how important a capitalism-based economy actually is when we look at all of the requirements of how we're throwing money at this, and this. Now, I understand green energy is important. I understand wars in Ukraine are important. But I think one of the big problems we're running into is that we as America are not the super capitalism making stuff machine that we used to. Now, I went and did a little bit of a study on this, and what I found was that these are basically the reasons why the retired just are getting behind. And the irony of it all is that the retired were full of those groups of people who would say, screw those kids with those student loans, make them pay every dollar back. And now they're starting to get it of constantly paying on debt and never actually paying it down, and now owing more than they originally did 2 to 7 years later. All right. Insufficient retirement savings. Number 1. Healthcare expenses. Number 2. Fixed income and inflation. Number 3. Assisting family members. Number 4. Credit card debt. Number 5. Housing costs. Number 6. Financial illiteracy. Number 7. Unexpected expenses. So that's what they're looking at as for why these elderly or disabled are essentially getting into debt. Now, with that said, I went to the Open AI for ChatGPT, and I asked it, I was like, look, how can the disabled and retired figure out a way to go ahead and get out of this debt? And all the answers were very vanilla. They were very boring, and they weren't very direct. I'm going to go through them, but then I'm going to go through the stuff that I think actually matters with this situation. They had to say, create a budget, prioritize high interest debt, consider debt consolidation, okay? Increase income, cut expenses, utilize assets, explore debt forgiveness programs, seek financial assistance, stay disciplined. Stay disciplined, right? Yeah, okay. All right, I get it. So then I asked it, I was like, hey, OpenAI, let me ask you this. How can these, how can they, basically get money to pay off the money that's due? How can they go about that? How can they approach as a retired disabled people getting cash to pay off the other debt? It said using payday loans, taking out a home equity loan, maxing out retirement accounts, 401k IRAs, taking on more debt, ignoring the problem, using debt settlement companies, borrowing from friends or family, gambling, or investing in high-risk ventures. I said, okay. Some of those sound very BS-y, right? They don't make sense. It's not a real way to go ahead and try and pay off debt. So then I asked, okay, what are some legitimate ways to pay off debt that also are unrealistic or improbable, things that disabled and retired should stay away from? He came back and said, winning the lottery, inheriting a fortune, discovering hidden treasure, becoming a celebrity, finding a money tree, time traveling to invest in the stock market, winning a lawsuit, and being rescued by a rich benefactor. So, okay, all right. OpenAI, ChatGPT, it delivered, right? It gave some BSE responses, but okay, it made sense. So then I went over and I said, all right, well, so what are the jobs? Because that's what it really comes down to. The disabled and retired having to work. Disabled, you're going to use your 9-month trial work period, your extended eligibility period, your ticket to work program, your blah, 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 all these things to be able to work, right? Okay, cool. So you're going to do those things to be able to work. And the retired, they don't need those programs. They can just work, right? So I said, okay, ChatGPT, walk me through this. What can people do? And here's the interesting thing. I asked it, okay, what are the best jobs for earning money that are, based off of low skill markets, right? Where you don't have to do like crazy stuff. And then I asked, okay, well, what are example things that you can do where you can work on your own time schedule, right? And then I asked it, okay, what jobs are the most suitable for the disabled and retired? And the ironic thing is that they all had a massive cross section on the same job. So let me go through them real quick. Freelance writing or copywriting, virtual assistants, graphic design, tutoring or teaching, pet sitting or dog walking, handyman services, delivery driver, which is a big one. A lot of the retired are getting into the delivery driver, the Uber situation, cleaning services, event planning, and social media management. Now, let's go to the jobs that basically allow you to have your own schedule. They don't require you to start on a particular time and end on a particular time or take your lunch at a particular time. These are ones where you get to make your own schedule. Freelance work, remote customer service representative, transcriptionist, virtual assistant, online tutoring, delivery driver for gig economy platforms, online seller, blogging or content creation, photography, fitness instructor or personal trainer. Okay, so then I said, all right, wait. All right, ChatGPT, what jobs do you think, right, these individuals, disabled and retired, should actually go ahead and do if they are disabled and retired? And came back and said, remote customer service representative, freelance writing or editing, virtual assistants, transcriptionist, online tutoring and teaching, consulting, crafting and artisan work, pet sitting or dog walking, gardening and landscaping, photography. Now, that I agree with. And here's the reality. Okay, I just want to make people aware of what's going on. In the future, as a result of a bad, let's just call it like it is. It's as a result of bad White House policies when it comes to raw materials being utilized in America. We are going to end up with an economy that retirement really doesn't make sense anymore financially, and disability benefits are so small that that you have to have a job just to be on disability benefits, right? There will be almost like this inherent lie where you're applying and quasi not working and sometimes working. And then when you get found disabled, you have to literally go and do a program immediately to try and be able to have enough to be able to survive. So there's that as to what's going on. It is my belief that this whole system will force people who are disabled and retired to have to do continuous work. I think most jobs in the online teaching environment will be taken up by those who are retired and disabled. However, I think what's going to replace the retired and disabled are AI chatbots, where they can literally go ahead and have a person look like they're teaching and then basically not actually be a real human being. So I think that one's going to be for the next 10 years. And then basically, somebody's just going to create a script. The script is going to be read by a robot, and that's going to replace all those retired and disabled who could potentially do that job. Now, freelance writing or editing. We both know, as I'm using ChatGPT right now to pull up ideas and go through structures and look at ideas, that the future, I just saw the dog food tester I just saw that. You caught me off guard with that, Gary. But now let me tell you this. I think this is important. The freelance writing or editing is going to, most news, most journalism is going to be an artificial intelligence game going forward into the future. That's just what it is. So I don't think for the retired or disabled, that one's going to be realistic over the next 5 years. I think that's going to be transitioning to just massive artificial intelligence. Instead of having a bunch of writers, you'll just have one manager reviewing all the articles that are auto-created by these systems. Virtual assistant, that may continue forward because look, AI can't do everything, but maybe in 15 years, that one will be gone for the retired and disabled because, it will take time for the computers to be able to have functional tasks and then attach them to robots to actually complete things. Transcriptionists, that one's going to be immediate. That one is going to be immediate. That one doesn't even exist for the most part right now. Online tutoring or teaching, we already talked about that. Consulting, that's not a bad one, but that's only for those who are retired and disabled who essentially have some really unique skill set or went way up in an industry and had that knowledge base and understanding. So, and then Charlton Zimmerman made a really good point there. Employers don't want the liability of hiring slow, elder, or disabled impaired workers. That's true, unless it is a small town that has mostly basically retired and disabled people visiting it to buy t-shirts and tchotchkes and stuff you put on a shelf. Then they do great. Let me tell you, they hire disabled and retired left and right. They are front and center. Next one, crafting and artisan work. I feel like the problem with crafting and artisan work is that you can't really charge enough per piece. So you have to make a lot of it. And so that repetitive nature of making a lot of some crafted item, some artisan created item is just unrealistic. Pet sitting or dog walking, that one I see as being a major one. I see a lot of retired, a lot of disabled doing that function. However, the big problem that people have nowadays is that people will hire a pet sitter, and then the pet sitter, unfortunately, will go ahead and, just to be clear on this, there's a lot of bad people out there where they will, steal the dog, claim that it ran away, and then basically the dog will end up getting sold to somebody else in a totally different state. So people do not trust dog sitters anymore, even with all the cameras they have and everything like that, because they'll claim that they took them on a walk and then they'll steal the dog and claim that the dog ran away. Next one, gardening and landscaping. That's just unrealistic for the disabled, unrealistic for the retired, because anything done at a commercial level with gardening and landscaping is not going to happen. Photography is over. The industry is over. Artificial intelligence makes tons of images. You just add a bunch of images of what you look like to it, and then it can recreate tons of images of what you would look like essentially, in those different situations. You in a suit, you in a sunset, you in a Hollywood movie, you with Indiana Jones. So it's over. So when I look at these jobs, realistically, to me, I don't feel like any of them have any real length or any real legs to potentially go ahead and be options for retired and disabled to actually work and have money. I do see delivery driver as a very, very likely one that will be taken over by the young and the old and the disabled. I do see that. I do see social media management as a game to be done by the elderly and disabled. I really do see that because I think that artificial intelligence, the management feature, they're not at yet. The writing things, doing articles, stuff like that, I feel like the social media management stuff where you have to oversee things, upload things, change things, gauge how people will interact with that particular person or that particular topic, that you need a human touch. You got to have a human touch. So, I see all these different things. Now, I going back to the way that they say that people should pay it off, the bottom line is work. It's going to come down to work, and it's going to come down to finding a job that you can potentially do. One thing that none of these things really mention is becoming a social media influencer. And the reason why that's becoming so difficult is because there's so many people trying to do it. A lot of young kids are like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And the reality is that if I'm just fair with it, I think that the age group and content creation of older people making YouTube channels that could potentially do well, I feel like there's not as many people in that genre, and there's still opportunities over the next 5 years. But after 5 years, that's going to be cut off because whoever's famous is just going to be the one who sucks up all the views. So the bottom line is, I think the younger people, there's zillions of people trying to do it. So as a result, it really does create a situation for, where they just can't, you know what I mean? Like the young people, they can't get into it. The older people, they for sure can get into it. Now, I see something in the chat section. It says, hit his name. It says block, hit block. Let me see real quick. I don't even see this person. Where are they in here? Hold on. Help me out, guys, with what's going on. I'm not sure what's going on with that. So Dev Null said OnlyFans. Yes, that is a major thing that is becoming a thing for disabled people. Yes, I'm sure the CDI units have gotten access to OnlyFans accounts for disabled people. Here's my thing with that. Okay. I believe that people are going to be in a super struggling situation over the next 10 years. I believe, not even mentioning the trust funds running out, like that's Armageddon, but not even mentioning that. I believe that as a result of America not being run properly, us throwing all this money and resources and fuel and food to all these other countries for this long of a period and not being invested into the American people, I believe that realistically, whatever people do to make money is going to be, from an ethical, moral stance, viewed as an acceptable means of actually earning and keeping money. Because you have this balance. What is considered a proper way of working and earning money? Right? We always used to joke about farmers. It doesn't pay much, but it's honest work, right? Don't pay much, but it's honest work, right? And then we have, doctors, lawyers, accountants, this, that. All these things that we consider to be acceptable ways of an individual to go ahead and make a buck, right? But I think in the future, things are going to be so bad that our moral shift is going to be more like with what China is like, where people are like, well, look, I mean, you can do whatever. If you're going to earn enough money to be able to survive, then all the power to you. So I think that for me, that's going to be the moral shift, where a lot of disabled and retired are going to be able to go ahead and do whatever they want, and there's going to be no moral restrictions to that. I think religion's going to have a tough time arguing against that, because religion usually in itself does not feed people, and they're going to need food in the future. That's the reality of it. So, Kevin, thank you for the $2 donation. Let's see what we got here. Very cool, very cool. So, going through all of this, I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were. Essentially, going forward with. I see here Robert Scott. There's some sort of issue. Let me see what's going on in the chat section real quick. I'm not seeing him. He might have just pulled out. Let me scroll up a little bit. Okay, yeah, I guess, yeah, I don't know who this guy is, but there's always some sort. It's probably the one that I put in a timeout or hid with the last video, who's just grumpy now. So it's no biggie, guys. We have one of those. I mean, it was remember the last time we had one guy who just kept creating user accounts after user accounts to attack me because I have Jewish heritage, and to him that was unacceptable. So, bottom line is, like, there's always somebody that plays that game. Now, with that said, one thing, all right, here's what we need to do with this video, just to clarify. I need you to create ideas about what programs the SSA should have for retired and disabled that allow them to work more with fewer restrictions, so that people in the future will be able to get themselves out of debt. And here's why. I know what you guys are thinking. Well, we shouldn't be in debt to begin with. We should be getting a proper amount of money to begin with. I get it. But the SSA is not going to dig you out of the hole. They're just not. They don't have the money to do it, and Congress doesn't give a shit. So the problem is, you got to kind of get yourself out of the hole, and the SSA can back you by changing its programs to be more beneficial to being able to work and earn money and get out of the hole that you're currently in. So what I want to say essentially is this, okay? And I just want to put this out here. I'm going to do a video specifically on what the restrictions are, and I'm going to do basically a video on what are some ideas. I want you guys to give me your thoughts on it, because a lot of your ideas help me kickstart ideas I have. Sometimes I look at the ideas and I'm like, nope, never going to work. Sometimes I look at the ideas, I'm like, nope, absolutely will never work. And then a week later, I'm like, shit, you know what? That could work. If we tweak it a little bit, we tweak it a little this way, that way, that could work. And so what happens is, we want to essentially create something that can be delivered to the nonprofits and the SSA that they can use to actually change the programs to be more beneficial for people to be able to get these little side jobs. Because, like I said, the SSA ain't going to dig you out. I hate to say this, but President Biden is not going to give you your $200 a month extra. It's just, I know, I get the promises, but that ain't going to happen. This is about you not being restricted to earn a little bit extra money. So that's what this comes down to. All right, everybody, I will catch you a little bit later. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and I will probably catch you with a couple of videos tomorrow. There's a couple of things I want to go over. I hope you have an amazing, wonderful, wonderful night. Please remember to go ahead and take care of yourself. Buy what you need to, because we are in the upcoming months. You remember, we're on a countdown clock. Like, if we look it up real quick, let me just look at the countdown clock. Hold on. Countdown to American presidential election. Okay, let's see what it says. All right, here's the countdown clock. We are 219 days, 1 hour, 8 minutes, 20 seconds away from basically the 2024 presidential election decision, November 5th, 2024. So what I'm getting at is that's going to go pretty quickly. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we start the month, we end the month, whoop, we're right through it. Point is, please start to get the things that you need to make sure that if anything happens, if there's any potential problem, you at least have food, water, cuddles from your doggies, all that kind of stuff. So I will catch you guys a little bit later, and we'll go from there. And I hope you're doing well. Please remember to like, please remember to subscribe, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much. All right, have fun. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.